Hey everybody, it's me, Mr. Dixon here. I'm going to be going over CDL Day 5 for Miss Howard's class, and I'm trying to set the mood a little bit. Got us some instrumental music playing. Just kind of picture in your head, it's first period if you're in Miss Howard's with me and Miss Howard, first period in our collaborative class. I'm trying to get up on this stool and it's moving out in front of me, about falling out of it or hitting the wall, or I'm hitting the podium and the sides coming off. And then, of course, I have to get down and get my water to get a drink after teaching a little bit. But we're going to pick off where we left off on day 3, which was talking about fragments. We're going to do review A, which is your first part. We're going to review what sentences and sentence fragments are, and then we're going to move into run-on sentences. But first, for review A, identifying and revising fragments. Remember, a complete sentence expresses a complete thought, which means it has a subject and a verb, a subject and a predicate. We've kind of used verb and predicate interchangeably throughout the years, but remember, a subject is typically a noun, then your verb phrase is a verb, obviously. So, in review A, it says, some of the following groups of words are sentence fragments. Identify each fragment and make it part of a complete sentence, adding commas where necessary. When you find a complete sentence, you'll just write C for complete. So our example says, originally raised to hunt badgers, period. Dachshunds are now popular as pets. So we want to make that into a complete sentence. So all we're going to do is we're going to remove the period and add a comma after badgers, and then change the capital D in dachshunds to a lowercase d. Originally raised to hunt badgers, comma, dachshunds are now popular as pets. So let's look down at number 1. Number 1 says, humans have kept dogs as pets and helpers, period, for perhaps 10,000 years. So to make that into a complete sentence, we would do, humans have kept dogs as pets and helpers, comma, lowercase f, for perhaps 10,000 years. Number 4, there are over 100 breeds of dogs now. That's going to be a complete sentence because it's telling us a complete thought. Let's look over at number 10. Number 10 says, if you like dogs, period, consider having one for a pet. So to make this a complete sentence, we would do, if you like dogs, comma, lowercase c, consider having one for a pet. Okay, now we're going to move into some new material for CDL Day 5, run-on sentences. A run-on sentence is 2 or more complete sentences run together as one, because they do not show where one idea ends and another one begins. Run-on sentences can confuse your reader. There are 2 different types of run-on sentences. In the first kind, it's called a fuse sentence. The sentences have no punctuation at all between them, which you can kind of see there on your packet. Run-on. Schools in the Middle Ages were different from our students, usually did not have books. So we can make that into 2 separate sentences. Schools in the Middle Ages were different from ours, period. Then students usually did not have books, period. In the other kind of run-on sentence, the writer links together sentences with only a comma to separate them from one another. This is called a run-on comma splice. For example, run-on. Schools today have books for every student, comma, many schools also have televisions and computers. To make that correct, you would change it into 2 sentences. Schools today have books for every student, period. Then capital M, and many schools also have televisions and computers. Revising run-on sentences. There are several ways you can revise run-on sentences. As shown in the examples above, you can always make them into 2 separate sentences. However, if 2 thoughts are equal to one another in importance, you may make a compound sentence. Compound sentences typically have semicolons and conjunctions. So a run-on. Canada has 10 provinces. Each province has its own government. To make that into a comma splice sentence, it's fused in the first one. Then a comma splice would be Canada has 10 provinces, comma, each province has its own government. Then as we move over to the next page, scroll up here a little bit on my screen, and I'll turn over in the packet. The first one, you can make a compound sentence by using a comma and a coordinating conjunction such as and, but, or. Corrected. Canada has 10 provinces, comma, and each province has its own government. You can make a compound sentence by using a semicolon. Canada has 10 provinces, semicolon, each province has its own government. So now let's look down at exercise 4, revising run-on sentences. The following items are confusing because they are run-on sentences. Clear up the confusion by revising the run-ons to form clear, complete sentences. To revise, use the method given in parentheses after each sentence. So, for example number 1, it says Hollywood is still a center of American movie making. Fine films are made in other places too. Use a comma in a coordinating conjunction. So to do that, you would do Hollywood is still a center of American movie making, comma, but you're adding a comma and but. Fine films are made in other places too. So let's look over at the next exercise 4. Let's look at number 1. Number 1 says movies entertain millions of people every day. The cinema is popular all over the world. And our cue tells us to make 2 sentences. So our first sentence will be movies entertain millions of people every day, period. The cinema is popular all over the world, period. And remember, you would capitalize the T and the for cinema. Now let's look down at number 6. Number 6 says Thomas Edison was a pioneer in early movie making. He and one of his assistants invented the first commercial motion picture machine. Use a semicolon. So what you would do, it would be Thomas Edison was a pioneer in early movie making, semicolon. He and one of his assistants invented the first commercial motion picture machine. Okay, let's look down at number 10. Number 10 says movies are great entertainment. They're also an art form. Use a semicolon in a conjunctive adverb. So you could revise this to say movies are great entertainment, semicolon, and they are also an art form. Okay, so review B. The following paragraph contains several sentence fragments and run-on sentences. Revise all the fragments and run-ons, adding words and changing the punctuation and capitalization as necessary to make each sentence clear and complete. Then it gives us some examples, but we're looking at the paragraph. So let's look at the first little bit of it. During the Civil War period, women who were also nurses showed remarkable heroism. So during the Civil War is not a complete sentence, so we want to revise that. So to revise that, we would do during the Civil War and remove the period, changing that to a comma. Women, we would make that a lowercase w instead of a capital W, who were nurses showed remarkable heroism. So there's your example. So you're going to go through and make that into complete sentences. And that is the end of CDL Day 5. We'll come back with another lesson in a little while. Thank you.